Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today is gonna be called a foundation 101 video. Sorry about my cat, he's a turd. But I have some different foundations that I have swatched on paper. I know that kind of looks weird, but some of these I have an allergic reaction to, so I can't swatch them on my skin. But I'm gonna kind of give you the lowdown and run of foundations, what you should look for and stuff like that, just basic things to know. So hopefully this helps you guys. So let's jump in. So first off, first let's talk about the type of skin you can have. You can have normal skin, combination skin, oily skin, and dry skin. So normal is where you're not really oily and you're not really dry. Then of course dry is where you have super dry skin. Oily is where you're really oily throughout the day. Combination is where you have dry and oily skin combined. Like for me, I have combination skin. So on the outside parameters of my face, so like my forehead, my cheeks, and my chin stay pretty dry, whereas my T-zone, which is this area, I'm decently oily, and I also have big pores around this area. So next we're going to talk about what kind of foundations there are, like what kind of finishes. So first off, you have a luminous foundation and you also have a matte foundation. So for luminous foundations, I find that if you have normal to dry skin, you'll most likely like a luminous foundation because usually they are decently hydrating. For combo to oily skin, I would suggest a matte foundation or even a semi-demi matte foundation because that helps to kind of lock in your oil to kind of keep it under control. And also, depending on what primer you use with the foundation can help if you like luminous foundation but you do have combo or oily skin. If you use a oil control primer, you could most likely get away with a luminous foundation. I really like, or do it the opposite way, have a luminous a luminous primer and a matte foundation. That way it still gives you a little bit of glow. I really like the L'Oreal Lumi primer. It's a really good one. I personally don't have one on me right now. I just ran out like a week ago. Sorry, one of my things broke. But it's a really decent one. I have a video on primers and concealers, so go ahead and check that out. That should help you to figure out what you're looking for. So now we have where we're going to talk about coverage. So you have light to sheer coverage, then you have medium and high medium coverage, and then you have full. Now most foundations that I'm going to talk about are in that medium to full range. I have, I think, one light foundation or one light coverage foundation. The rest are buildable from medium to full coverage depending on what you're looking for. So first we're going to talk about foundations for normal to dry skin. Now this one I would only suggest for dry skin, but you could use it for normal depending on how normal your skin is, if that makes sense. So this is the NYC Get It All foundation. I have mine in 001 Light. This is a stick foundation. I would say this is light coverage. Like I wouldn't even call this low medium. So this is the swatch. It's a decent foundation. If I just want to kind of even up my skin tone a little, this would be what I would use. It honestly just depends. Another lightish coverage, I have the NYX BB cream Perfection in a tube. This illuminates and moisturizes, it brightens, and it smooths. I have mine in 02 Natural. Now this color is way too dark for me, but I actually really like it. Is right here on the bottom. As you can tell, it's like super dark, but it is a decent foundation. It has, I'd probably say, low medium coverage or light coverage depending on how you use it. This tube is like pretty much empty because it has like a hole in the side of it. But next we're going to talk about our low medium coverages. So I have two foundations to talk about. And these are probably light medium to normal medium, depending on how you use them, how you apply them, all of that. So the first one is the CoverGirl Ultra Smooth Liquid Foundation. This is in 805 Ivory. Sorry. It is the second one. Now most of these dry down like matte or demi-matte, but part of them are still liquidy, so excuse if it does make a mess. The next one I want to talk about is the Almay Truly Lasting Color. I have mine in ivory, but I like the pump on this actually. It does get some clogs in it, but that's kind of normal after using a foundation for so long. But my problem with this is that it's supposed to be a long wearing makeup. It should have better coverage, but it doesn't. And I feel like with my skin type, if you are not normal or dry, this is not going to last on you. So that's kind of my problem with this, but it is a decent foundation. Like, I think if you don't have acne or really any like covering to do, except for maybe to even out your skin tone, I think this is a really great foundation, especially if you are normal to dry. Now, if you have combination skin or oily skin, then I would not recommend this. You could probably spot conceal and use this, and it'd probably do decently well. But I don't really like the formula of this foundation that much. Next, I have a completely matte foundation. This shade is too dark for me. This is by Rimmel London. This is the Clean Finish Matte Foundation. It's supposed to have oil control. It makes you look poreless. Oh, I have mine in 240 soft beige. I got this from a friend actually, but there it is. It is completely matte. It dries down. I actually really like, I used to have one that was a lighter shade. I was using this to contour and bronze my skin for a while, like as a cream contour kind of thing. And it works decently well for that, for me anyways, because it's more of a cool tone brown shade. But my main problem with this is, one, this is too dark of a color, but I actually really like the finish of this. I think you could probably get full coverage, but I usually get high medium coverage, and then I spot conceal to kind of help with it. But I would definitely recommend finding your shade. Now, another medium coverage foundation is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation. Now, this foundation does not dry down unless you use a powder, which is fine. Of course, I have no problem using a powder to set a foundation. That's fine. But what I don't like about this is that it does, for me anyways, it cakes up around my nose, and I get really bad creasing on my upper lip, which on most foundations I don't have that problem. Like, it's not a problem for me. But it is hard with this. I think you could probably get sheer coverage out of this if you really like smooth it out and stuff, but for me, I'm not a big fan of this. My shade is Porcelain. This is a fair warm toned foundation, by the way, or well, this shade anyways. This is a decent foundation, but it's not my favorite personally. I will get to my favorites foundations, the ones I highly recommend. Next we have I should probably show you a swatch of that one, huh? So there is the Wet n Wild. It is a pretty light foundation. It's probably my second lightest foundation, I would say. Lost my other one. I guess I won't talk about that. But anyways, next I have the Revlon Color Stay 2-in-1 Compact Makeup. This is in 110 Ivory. That's usually my shade, is I'm always the lightest shade. So you have that one, which is the concealer, which the concealer is alright. And this foundation's decent too. I would say this is medium coverage. You can build it up to full coverage, but I haven't found a way to make it look not so cakey and heavy. Like, it is really heavy on my skin, and it's a really creamy thing, and I feel like it goes to a powder, like a powder finish, but I just personally do not like this foundation. I'm still kind of working with it to see what I can do with it, you know. But so far, every time I've used it, it just looks really heavy. It really clogs my pores, depending on what kind of primer I use. But I haven't found a way to make this work with my skin type. And it feels very oil-based, even though that doesn't really make sense for a foundation like this. It's like a cream kind of foundation. But to me, it just feels very oily and greasy. And I don't like that for my skin. So that's kind of just my opinion. Next, and after this will be kind of like my go-to foundations that I really like. I actually really like this one. I just haven't been reaching for it recently. This is the Rimmel London Match Perfection. This has 24-hour moisture and a pore blurring effect. This is in 100 or 120 Ivory. I actually really think this foundation is great. It is a shade too dark for me, but since it is a matching foundation, it's supposed to like match your skin tone, I guess, if that makes sense. So it does work pretty well, but I would say this is probably high medium coverage. I haven't been able to get this to full, but it does wear very nicely. I don't know about the 24-hour moisture claim, but I do really like this. I still use a primer under it, even though it says it's a pore blurring, has the pore blurring. I just find it works really nice with the hard candy primer and the Insta Ready primer by Physicians Formula are my two favorites with this foundation. But this is a very decent foundation. I believe it's like $10 or something, but it's really good. I would highly recommend this if you're just starting out. It's really blendable, really workable. Really like this foundation. Next, we have the L'Oreal True Match. I have two shades of this. I'm gonna go ahead and show you. One is a cool toned shade and the other is a warm tone. I have N1 and W2. I want to get one of the not neutral. Oh, that's what I have. I have a neutral and a warm. I want to get the cool tone one and test that against the other two shades because these two shades fit me very well. I think for any beginner in makeup, I think this foundation, they have so many shades, so it's really good to be able to find your undertone and all of that. And they even have a Lumi version of this foundation, which I think is great. For me personally, I don't like it. I prefer this one, but this is very blendable, very easy to work with. I wish it did come with a pump. Like, I hope they'll update that soon. These don't have a pump, but I actually really love and enjoy this foundation. And you can definitely get a low full coverage out of this, or a high medium, whatever you decide to call it. But I really like these foundations. Next, I really like the formula of this, but the two shades that I do have are too dark. They're both on the orangier undertone side. And so this is the Milani 2-in-1 foundation. I have Creamy Vanilla and Light Natural, which they came out with like I think 2 months ago. So I'm going to show you swatches of these side by side and you're going to see what I'm talking about. That is 0, or that is 1, and that is 0. As you can see, the 0-1 is super dark and it looks super orange. Now, the 0-0 I can make work. It is still a little orange on me, but it's not super bad, so I still use that shade. I actually really like the formula of it. You can definitely get full coverage out of it. My only downside is that it does cake up around my nose after probably 7 hours of wear, I'd say. So it's not bad. I don't use it as a concealer like at all. Like, I'm not into that. But it is a very good foundation. I definitely recommend it. I have 2 more foundations and then we're done. The next is the Lala Fox Second Skin Foundation. Excuse me. So this does not dry down. That's from my swatches that I did like 30 minutes ago, something like that. It's still wet, which is fine. So you definitely have to set this one. I have the color Rosy Ivory, right? Yeah. So I actually really like the packaging. It has a nice pump on it. Full coverage foundation, I prefer to use this with a brush. I feel you sorry, I can't talk today. You get better coverage with a brush than you do with a sponge, but just kind of test it out and see how it works on your skin. I feel like this would work on any skin tone or skin type. I don't know how many colors they have, but I found that this one works really well for me. It's very light. This is a Korean brand, so you might not be into it for that reason, but it's a very good foundation, so I'd highly recommend it. The last foundation I want to talk about, and I think this is a foundation that if you are super, super, super oily, that this would be a great foundation for you. It is not a completely matte foundation. It's a liquid mousse foundation. This is the Rimmel Stay Matte Liquid Mousse foundation. It's supposed to help shine control. It is a great option. I think this is only like $6, I believe, for this tube. This is a standard fluid ounce, which is fine. I have the color Light Porcelain. This is probably the lightest foundation I own. I'm not sure if it's this one or the Wet n Wild foundation that is lighter. Ooh. But this is probably the only mousse foundation I will use. It says it's a liquid mousse, but I feel like it's actually like a mousse. Like, I feel like you could eat it. So, there you go. You can obviously see it's like moussey. But it does blend out. Look at that coverage. It's a really full coverage foundation, which that's kind of what I look for. I haven't noticed it making my pores look big or anything like that. I still obviously wear a primer under it, and I do set it with the Coty Airspun powder, or sometimes I'll use a foundation powder if this is a little too light for me, like a shade darker foundation powder. But I really like this. It's lightweight. It controls shine. I haven't noticed it sticking to any dry patches, anything like that. It doesn't cake up around the nose, and I would definitely consider this full coverage. But this stuff is amazing. I definitely prefer to use it in the winter. I feel like it doesn't last as long in the summer, like especially here in Texas where it's like extremely freaking hot, like fry an egg on a car kind of hot, or sidewalk, whatever. But I actually really love this foundation. It's definitely one of my favorites And I feel like nobody talks about this foundation, but it is amazing. So I would definitely recommend the last probably 3 or 4 foundations that I've talked about. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And if you guys have any more questions about foundation, primer, anything, just comment down below for your suggestions on this beginner's how-to series. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out the other videos. They will be in a playlist. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.